Wow, what an intro! welcome, everybody, to the Spectrum Sanctorum, your sanctuary, your guiding light through all of pop culture. Today, we are hosting 1 week later and looking at the Rings of Power. It is, as the name says, 1 week later since its finale, and today we are looking at the most expensive television series ever made, airing exclusively on Amazon Prime, Jeff Bezos' money. It's the first Tolkien adaptation of Middle-earth's Second Age. So there's a lot to be looking forward to. We're going to be looking at the deception, what worked, what didn't work, and I'm not talking about it by myself. Of course, I am joined by the captain, Lord Dove.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
I'm well. Very excited to get into Lord of the Rings. It's a family tradition to talk every Thanksgiving. We usually sat together and watched the extended version since it's so long. We waited. We watched the whole thing, have the turkey cooking. And by the time the Lord of the Rings is over, the turkey's ready. So it's a tradition of happiness and fond memories.
I will be going to New Jersey this November to participate
There we go.
in this tradition.
Yeah.
It is not just me and the captain, or should I say the Lord Dove.
Dove.
We are joined by a very special guest today. We have Jake from the group Nerdy Up North joining us for the conversation. Jake, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks. It's 1 a.m. here, middle of the night. But yeah, straight from Middle Earth, England. It's about as close as you can get these days.
I knew that's where it was. I knew it.
Yeah. Big eruption today. Skies were gray, classic.
I'm sorry for your PM, by the way.
That's no problem.
Before we begin, tell us about Nerdy Up North. Tell us about what you do and who you are.
Yeah, so we're like basically we're a Facebook group first. Started a podcast, just the Nerdy Up North podcast. We got that good branding on everything: Twitch, Instagram. We don't have any numbers, luckily. But yeah, we kind of, to be honest, we kind of do a little bit of what you guys do. Maybe it doesn't look as professional. This is nice.
Well, big shout out to Jason there helping us with the effects, the music. Like, I know Joe's excited. I'm excited largely just because of the music. Yeah. I was really calm a second ago. Like, all right, we're talking Lord of the Rings. It's going to be fun, Rings of Power. And then the music hit. And now I'm hyped.
Exactly. The guy he's a true wizard. He's a true wizard. He's got the beard and everything. He's the man.
That said, we normally begin with what was this? But we're going to do a brief synopsis. It's hard to do a synopsis with, a television series. There's so much to talk about. But for those who need that, first of all, spoilers ahead. We're going to be talking about everything. If you haven't seen the final episode or any of the episodes, we're going to talk about things. That said, the show was set thousands of years before the events of the Lord of the Rings movie. Rings of Power takes us through some key points in the Second Age. The forging of the Rings of Power, the rise of Sauron, the fall of Numenor, and the discovery of Mithril. But it all kind of begins with a stranger who falls from the stars and lands near the Harfoot. They kind of have their own journey going on. They weren't too involved with everyone else. That is kind of our introduction, the stranger landing with the Harfoot. A very Hobbit-like people. They're actually one of 3 Hobbit races. If my research was thorough enough.
Hobbit research.
I did not read any of the books, but the Hobbit.
Yeah, no, you're right, because there's the river folk, which is where Smeagol comes from, and then these guys, which are the Harfoots and such, and then the Hobbits.
Yes, thank you. It's nice to know that I didn't botch that at all.
No, you did great. Yeah.
We also have Galadriel, who has turned away the gift of Valinor by literally jumping off a boat and bumping into Halbrand, and they get saved and wander into Numenor, and they have a whole quest kind of their own. Halbrand is avoiding the Southlands. He's fleeing orcs, but that's exactly where, that's exactly where Galadriel wants to be. They're saved by, they get saved by captain heading to Numenor. Numenor has not had any involvement with the elves. They don't want to go to the Southlands, but a partnership is forging. It seems like everyone is heading there to the Southlands. Meanwhile, in the Southlands already, there are orcs everywhere. And while there are elves watching over the men who've descended from the allies of Morgoth, woof, so much happening. You have, you have, the I believe Arondir is kind of the elf that we focus on as he looks over the folk there. He's taken in by the orcs, and is taken slave, fights back, gets the people to prepare for invasion. All the while, everybody's stories are coming together. I didn't even mention that dwarves and elves coming together as we have Prince Durin and, oh man, help me out here. There's too many names.
They're both Durin.
Elrond.
Elrond, thank you.
Oh, the friend.
Elrond.
Yeah. Elrond.
Elrond seeks out his friend who he hasn't seen in 20 years to help rebuild a forge, an elven forge, as they prepare for battle as well. But discover Mithril. That is something that the dwarves have been hiding on their own. It's been really problematic trying to forge this metal because everything will come crashing down. But the elves are at risk of losing all of their existence. If they don't find a way to fight back, they have to leave to Valinor and just never return. So they're really looking for a way to fight back, and Mithril may be the key. Everybody's stories, kind of, with the exception of like the Harfoot and the Stranger, everybody's stories kind of come together in a giant climax full of revelations, including Sauron's return. We also still have mysteries. And we're going to talk about all of those things. My goodness, that was so much. Well
done.
Was it? Thanks, Jake. That said, I want to know what works. So let's jump into that right now. What for our friends here? I've done enough talking, and Lord Dove.
Yes.
You being the Lord, having the lordship. I need to know, how did you feel and what worked for you?
What worked for me was the overall look of the show. I felt like I was returned to the Middle Earth that Peter Jackson created. Mm-hmm. And there's a catch to that because there was something in that didn't work, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we have a bumper for that as well.
We have a bumper for that as well. Yes. Thank you, Jason. What worked for me, I think the casting was fantastic. I love these characters. They did a great job of pretty much giving me the spirit, especially the dwarves. I felt all of the people that played the dwarves were like spot on casting. The dad, the king, Durin the Third, who was he was the hillbilly in the Ozark, which I blew my mind. His son, his wife, her singing. My God, what a gorgeous voice that she had. I thought there was a lot that kind of dragged on, but I thought that they went deep into storytelling, which made it worth it. And I really thought our real look at Numenor before the fall was incredible. The giant statues, the trees, the ships, everything that they did was just incredible. And that's what I feel what worked.
All right, Jake, our special guest. What worked for you? How did you feel about the show, and what worked for you?
Yeah, I definitely liked it overall, especially by the end. You're right about it dragging slightly, but I think they made it worth it. It was just like a long story they were telling. I think what really worked was like the friendship. The power of friendship is back. Like that's what I love about Lord of the Rings. You had like a lot of different characters figuring out like being friend, like, forming bonds outside of your own bubble is like beneficial to a point. But then we also did get to see like, coming together with people isn't always the best idea, because we had a little betrayal at the end there. It did create power, but at what cost, type of thing. But yeah, I missed that from like The Hobbit. I think like it was back to like the friendship of the Peter Jackson movies, where like as long as you got your friends with you, it's an adventure.
Nobody goes off trail and nobody walks alone.
Yeah.
That worked
Yeah.
for me. That was a bop.
I love
was
that.
listening to
Yeah,
that,
that was
but nobody
that
goes off trail.
was nobody walks alone. Yeah, I love that part.
I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah. I was watching with my girlfriend, and Alicia was saying, like, wait, is that all they're doing? Like, is that all they're saying? Is that all the lyrics to the song? Are they singing that the entire time that they're migrating? I was like, I think this is more of a training exercise. Well, we did have a big reveal in the end. Halbrand is Sauron. Now, if you don't know who Halbrand is, I already gave you a spoiler warning, and I don't know why you're here. So we're just talking about it now at this point. Halbrand is Sauron. That was the big revelation. The show kind of teased different people who it might be. We saw a young boy named Theo holding a hilt. We have a stranger falling. We have a stranger falling from the sky, and we don't know who he is. But we know that Halbrand is Sauron now. Did the mystery work for you guys? And how do you feel about that revelation when it finally came? Any of you could take it away.
I think they telegraphed it like a bit too early in that last episode, because it came out of nowhere, which was nice, because it was kind of like we were waiting the whole series to see, like, is Sauron going to show up? Is he going to be just like a giant suit of armor or whatever? But I thought they made Halbrand like act like quite heavily differently in that last episode. So it kind of felt like, well, the music's evil whenever he's talking, and he seems a bit shifty now. But yeah, I don't know how you guys felt.
I thought it was cool because it was a huge misdirect. That once he started talking to Carol Brimbor about why don't you just use these little jewels and sprinkle them in the rings. Once he said that, I was like, oh snap! They did a twist, because in the Silmarillion, it was another elf that was in love with Galadriel that wanted to be close to Celebrimbor so he could learn how to use the Silmarils, and those were the embers of light that came from Oreoluvatar, if I'm not mistaken.
Terms are happening. Nouns are happening.
So yeah, so that's like the god. They had this big tree. It was all lit up, and then Morgoth in the first age ate the tree. Basically, he had this giant spider, which is Shelob's mom, and basically it broke up and it fell into the earth, and it became basically the mountain. That's what the Mithril is. It's the Silmarils in this story. And the other one, they captured some of the light, and they called it the Silmarils. It was pieces of the tree that survived, and Celebrimbor figured out how to forge it into things. That's why some of the swords light. I seen people are going to be like, "Wow, I had no idea he was such a nerd."
No. I'm so glad you're saying all this, because this is an education for me. I've watched the movies. I've played some video games, but I have not read the books, and we'll get into it later. But I've seen some negativity, or not even negativity, just there's an expectation that when you change literature for a television format, you're going to change some things, and not everybody is going to receive that well. And so I knew that not only was I going to watch this show and enjoy it, I'm gonna have some people educate me about some of the stuff from the books that I didn't know. It's impossible to fit everything onto that was on screen,
right.
But also some things just don't work as well once you get them on screen, so you got to make these changes. I think for me, and Jake, you touched on it, the power of friendship, as you put it, a fellowship. There was quite a bit of relationships that we got to see grow in front of us, as well as existing ones that really felt just natural. I enjoyed the Harfoot clan. I really enjoyed seeing Brandy and Nori together. It was Nori Brandyfoot and I'm sorry, Poppy
Poppy,
Proudfelt.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed seeing them together.
And I also thought that was a misdirection on the stranger because once he started doing his and then his leg broke or his ankle broke and he couldn't carry the caravan.
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
I just really like their section might have been. I just thought they had really good chemistry. Seeing there's a particular line that was being said is like, Poppy, there's head sense and there's hard sense, and then Poppy responded back, there's common sense and there's nonsense.
Yeah.
And just seeing these relationships that, sometimes when you're friends you're gonna bicker, or a lot of times when you're friends you're gonna bicker. Not everything's going to be positive and hunky-dory. We also see that with Eldron and I keep saying his name wrong. Elrond and Prince Doran. We've got this relationship that begins rocky for us as viewers. They haven't seen each other in 20 years. It's Elrond's fault. They link up. You can see that Doran cares about Elrond. The tree that was the saplings that were given to him have grown into a beautiful tree.
Oh, that was heartbreaking. That when he was telling the story about how everyone was making fun of him because the tree wouldn't grow, and he's like,
yeah,
it's like, yeah. seeing Elrond welcome in by the family. It was like
his wife, make sure he stays for dinner. Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
This is what we need. Like, I'm all for this. Like, Marvel needs this too. Invite the characters around for dinner. I want to see a dinner party. I don't care about this saving the world stuff.
Yeah, I want to see
Give
what
me
they
an
eat.
episode.
Yeah. What are they eating?
Don't save the shawarma for the end credit. Put it into the show.
Into the show. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Look, I'm inclined to agree. I don't want to make this a Marvel conversation right now, but Avengers Ultron, I'm not gonna admit. I don't mind admitting that one of my favorite parts of Age of Ultron was all of them just having drinks and trying to lift Thor's hammer.
Yeah, that was a cool part. Yeah.
So seeing Elrond talk trash to Princess Diza about her man and telling embarrassing stories about him running away from mallets and sounding like a baby with a high-pitched sound. These were key moments for me. I really thought the show was charming. And I think there's things we look for, whether it be the atmosphere or the action. Really, it was the charm of the actors who gelled really well together and the characters' relationships. That might have been my favorite part for me. I found myself laughing, chuckling, smiling. You said heartbreaking, Jake. I will not confirm or deny any tears that occurred, but like I really felt emotionally attached to the show.
Yeah, and like they had plenty of time to do it, but I feel like they got you emotionally invested pretty quick, so that you could enjoy the rest of it. Like they didn't spend like hours, like they had hours, but they didn't like they got us in there pretty quick. I feel like, which is good writing.
Yeah.
That said, I do think that there's an expectation. Not all of it is just about creatures and magic, but when I think about the Lord of the Rings trilogy movie, action is they've had some tremendous action scenes, and I think that's a lot to live up to. Do you feel like the action in the show lived up to what you've seen before? Did that work for you?
So in the beginning, when they had Arundel trapped in the slaver's pit, and he was trying to get out with his buddy, I felt that scene was really cool. And when action packed, and when the volcano erupted, and the battle that ensued beforehand, when Numenor's troops came in and said, "All right, we're going to come and we're going to save this village," I thought that was good, but it wasn't as grandiose. And I think it was done on purpose because the show is going to end on a grandiose battle where Isildur is going to be like, this ring? Oh no, I'm keeping that.
Oh.
No, it's going
Cast
right
it
in
into
my
the fire.
pocket. No, it's gonna be power and all mine. So I think that's why they did it this way. And our Billy has arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Billy.
Hey, hello.
I'm glad you're here. You're coming right on time. Because I invited Billy here for a very specific reason. We've talked a bit about what we liked and what worked for us. It's time for our next segment. What didn't work? All right, now I feel that it is only fair to let people know that before Billy speaks, he did not watch the entire program.
So he's only going to be here for this segment, and then I'm booting him out.
I think that's rude. That's rude.
He's gonna be lost. It's fair. He's gonna be lost. He's gonna be like, who? What's that? Who showed up?
Now I'm sure that we all have opinions on things that maybe didn't work for us, but Lord Dove, Jake, and myself actually enjoyed this quite a bit, and might struggle to to find stuff that didn't work for us. The reason why Billy didn't watch the whole show is because it didn't work for him.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
I'm very interested in hearing his perspective. That said, Billy, you showed up right when I needed you to. Do you want to take it away? Do you want to tell us what didn't work for you, Billy? Why couldn't you finish the show?
Well, part of me was just like, I couldn't get through Galadriel. Like I thought like they could have used a different Lord of the Rings character. They could have used Arwen, the character that Liv Tyler played. They could have used that one that Evangeline Lilly played that was made for the Hobbit movie. It seemed like they basically made a character that was an enchantress and a sorceress queen into like a paladin. She was changed very dramatically in terms of her character, to the point that it seemed like, wait, this was a character that could turn day into night. This was a character that could like see the future and all this other stuff, and was supposedly like one of the people that could see through all of Sauron's disguises and all that. And then it's like, wait, what?
Well, then maybe this is how she could see through all this stuff, because sometimes you have to like walk before you can run, or crawl before you can walk. So maybe she was learning all these things from interaction with so you missed that part because you didn't finish, but if you make it to the end,
defensive.
If you make it to the end, you're going to see something that builds, and I feel like it's a buildup.
Yeah, I mean, there's some shows where and then the other thing that got me was some of the special effects. I was like, especially like those first few episodes, it was just rough.
Tell me about the special effects that didn't work for you, because I'm interested in that. I myself found myself looking at everything like, wow, this is beautiful. And there's some things that I can absolutely talk about that did bother me, but special effects really weren't my issue too much. And this is the most expensive television series ever made. So what was so rough for you to look at?
The boat scenes in the first 3 episodes. There was a lot of times where, for some reason, it didn't look like they did the depth composition right. It looked like there was some parts where they were like hovering above the deck of the ship, and you could see like it's like, no, you're supposed to change the perspective of the actors. They're supposed to look like they're inside the boat, not floating above it. Why do they look like they are on a raft? They look like they're on a gym mat, standing in a flat line, and the edges are on the same level as their feet. And it was like, not everybody can notice depth perception like that, but when you see that, it just like a minor frustration, but it gets you. It gets you to a point that you're just like, freaking just do the compositing right. That is not good compositing. Why does it look like that?
Just build a pirate ship. Come on, Bezos.
Oh, you can build a rocket, but you can't build a pirate ship.
Yeah, that was when I noticed it as well. Like, I feel like that was the most green screeny part of the show. Yeah.
I feel like for me, what didn't work, there wasn't a lot that didn't work for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a very easy audience member, just happy to have stuff. I think I'm smarter than that, but I'm putting out the possibility that that's true. The first episode was really rough for me.
It's long.
It was entirely exposition.
Mhm.
And I understand that there's a lot of lore. There's an entire first age to cover. I'm not certain that was the best way to deliver it, but I'm also not a writer, so I don't really have suggestions either. The first episode was really rough for me. It made my viewing of maybe the second and third episode, I was kind of skeptical, but the show eventually grew on me. The first episode was so rough, though.
Oh God. Yes.
All right, so Billy had brought up the fact that the exposition was off. So here's what he's talking about.
I thought I brought up that the exposition was. Oh, you mean the boat?
The boat. And this is how they filmed it. So they were in water. Okay.
Okay.
They were in there. But yeah, it was white.
Well, the white screen ruined everything.
Why did they use green or blue? What's wrong with them?
As far as like money issue and the way the appearance of certain things looked, I guess I was maybe a little disappointed in the worm, because the worm wasn't even really a factor in the story. It was just a means to separate Galadriel and
Halbrand.
Halbrand from the rest of the group, because I thought we were going to see like a monster attack, and we really didn't see anything.
No.
So that was a little disappointing. And also towards the end, Billy, you might have seen pictures. I know you didn't see the episode, but in the final battle, the armor that can I say Numenorians? Is there a
Jake? What do we say?
Numenogons? I don't know.
but the soldiers of Numenor, I just really didn't like their armor. I just kind of thought it looked like it wasn't quite Batgirl, Flash, Green Arrow bad, but like I don't know, just I'm being nitpicky on that one.
I think I know what you mean. It was like, oh, we're the seafaring folk, so we shall make our armor like fish scales. And it's like, that's a legit type of armor, but it seemed a bit flashy. There was some really good sets of armor in this show, though.
Yeah, there was armor that really looked like heavy and that it could, take some damage. And like I've played enough RPG games, I know light armor is a thing. But I just kind of thought it looked kind of, I don't want to say foamy, but it didn't look like it was granting too much protection. But that's just me. Maybe I'm full of shit.
No. As it's evident, it didn't grant them a lot of protection, because when that thing fell on Homeboy, it was over.
When what thing fell on who?
When the mountain erupted. Yes. And the house collapsed on the knight, it was like, that armor, if they had good armor, you might still be okay.
That said, while I personally didn't have too much of an issue, there are issues that other fans of the series have brought up, and not just tied to money. I don't think there's really anyone who can complain about performances. I thought everyone's performances are really good.
It's tough because like you're competing against like Kate Blanchett for Galadriel. It's kind of like, oh yeah, you're not exactly doing like justice to like the person to say like, okay, here's an Academy Award winner, follow that.
No, but I feel like Galadriel, a lot of time was spent on her, and a lot of we got to see different phases of her. And sure, most of the time she was ready to battle, but I did feel like I got chances to see her be soft. I got chances to see her be witty. Not a lot. She was not the witty character of the show, but she had opportunities, whether she was training other people who were joining the company in the fight in the Southlands, and she was training a lot of young cadets how to sword fight.
Yeah.
That said, I thought she got to display a bit of charm there. And I felt like her performances were all very good when she needed to be skeptical, when she needed to be angry, when she needed to be sorrowful. We got to see her in the beginning betrayed by, her fellow elves who no longer wanted to further joined the expedition against Sauron. And then we also got to see her kind of, I want to say flirty with Halbrand, but she was flirty with a couple people.
Yeah.
There was a lot of, like, while everyone else is trying to figure out whether this old guy is Gandalf or not, I was busy
Sauron.
trying to figure out, so who she's
Who's she gonna?
who's she linking up with? Because she seems like she might be a romantic interest for somebody, but I couldn't tell who. But I thought everyone's performances were good.
Yeah. What didn't work for me? Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, what I was gonna say, because I definitely went astray, was that I feel like fans of the books, some of them have trouble with some of the changes. So, like, if I'm correct, Mordor wasn't formed this way. So seeing the way that Mordor came to be might have been bothersome for some of the fans. At the same time, Sauron going by Halbrand, even though it is recognized that he goes by many names, when he presents the way to, I guess, forge mithril in the books, he presents himself as like a god of gifts. I don't recall the name of that character because I did not read the books. I'm sorry. I'm not that familiar with the first age or the second age or any of the ages except for the movie, even though it was teased, because when presenting the idea of maybe forming other alloys into the mithril and telling, being able to present the idea of rings or crowns, he said, consider it a gift. So they kind of teased this other idea of something that happened in the books, but it wasn't just like the books. And I think that really bothered a lot of people. Joe, as someone who read the books, is there a change that happened that rubbed you the wrong way? That maybe...
So here's the thing. The Silmarillion is a composition of stories that Tolkien was working on. So it's basically an end cap to both the beginning and the end. That's the Silmarillion. And the story is really about the Silmarils, the pieces of blessed items from the Lord of the Rings God. And basically those pieces have certain powers and give people certain abilities. And Sauron was able to manipulate it and make it bend to his will. So that's what basically the Silmarillion was. They did mention a lot of other characters like Tom Bombadil and things like that. Tom Bombadil is like your Deadpool. He kind of can break the fourth wall, and he can, exist in a space where he's not out of time and space, where like things don't really affect him. Like the wizards couldn't mess with Tom Bombadil, but neither could the Ringwraiths. So, in the original Lord of the Rings book, there's this, in the movie, they changed it when the Ringwraiths were like right over Frodo and he puts the ring on for the first time. In the books, Tom Bombadil shooed those guys away, the Ringwraiths away, and not him putting the ring on and running away and then finding Lily Tyler's character. So it's hard to say, hey, you know what? I don't like this because it's not following the books in this case, because the book was like pieces of things that they kind of put together. It wasn't a Tolkien original. It was, hey, I think it was this kid was like, you know what? This book sold really well. Let me take some of these
Joe,
notes.
Are you
and then
telling me nothing rubbed you the wrong way? Now,
there's things that rubbed me the wrong way. What rubbed me the wrong way was the music in this. It did not have any epicness.
Really?
Yeah, it did not. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't feel that epic tune. There's no tune that kind of gave me, except for the dwarf's wife singing, there wasn't anything that kind of gave me that epicness that I would expect with Lord of the Rings, because even The Hobbit had the great philharmonic orchestra performing. I feel like we didn't get that. We were sans that. There was no like memorable, other than nobody goes off trail, nobody walks alone. I don't remember any other music. Like I would leave Lord of the Rings and start whistling like, there's so many tunes that I got that are stuck with, and I felt that was missing. The other thing, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you are right, because the music was like fine. It was like passable for like fantasy stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, like they had like 11 hours to get us to like get a theme stuck in our head.
Yeah, and they
Like
didn't.
it didn't really work.
Yeah.
You know what? That's weird. That's a weird thing to think about. I had not considered that
I
because
have a music podcast.
I did like the music. I'm not
Oh.
gonna lie. I enjoyed the music, but the idea of getting like an earworm and having the theme stuck in my head, truthfully, there's nothing in the show that got stuck in my head. And if I'm using that as a measurement of, how good something was, then yeah, I gotta admit, I did not have that moment where it's
Nope.
like, man, I'm gonna be humming this to myself.
Uh,
Wow.
the misdirections they spent so much time on, and the pace I felt was so slow that it was painful in the beginning. But once it picked up on the like seventh, fifth, sixth episode, I thought it like really took off. Some of the liberties they took, like the elf that was helping Celebrimbor make the rings, ended up being Sauron. And that was a big, oh snap, you bastard, how dare you, and they cut that out and they changed it. They made him but we have to keep in mind Sauron is a shapeshifter. He's
Right.
he's a Maiar, just like Gandalf and Saruman. And how am I doing with the names, Jake?
Yeah.
All
kick
right.
ass. The point about like the Sauron reveal is interesting though, because they didn't really react to it too much. I know Galadriel was kind of like, oh, just let this shit go, and we're gonna form up elves only from here on out.
Yeah.
But yeah, there wasn't like a big like a dramatic thing. It was just like he did it, and he's wandering off now.
Yep. So I'll see you later, okay? You're gonna fall asleep in the water. Bye. And he like leaves.
That said, I feel necessary to say that the composer, Bear McCreary, is responsible for doing shows, music for shows like The Walking Dead,
Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar. Yep. Again, it's really wild that the music didn't really catch on for you, because he's got legacy.
Yeah, he's got legacy. I'm not saying it was terrible.
Oh,
I'm just saying I didn't get any epicness like I normally did for Lord of the Ringsy stuff, especially when you got like 100. I'm guessing he only got one of the 100 or 200 million that they go to the. Here's $1 million. Do something. He's like, really, only $1 million? All right,
I'm gonna phone it in.
I'm gonna phone this in.
All right.
Exactly.
Well, you know what works for us, and you know what doesn't work for us. Why don't we take a look at that tomato score and see the reception?
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for.
It's not really music. It's Bear McCartney did it.
Music to my ears.
Yeah, let me hold it in.
All right, now let's see that tomato score.
There
we go.
39%.
Now this was interesting to me, because I felt like, even if you didn't, I don't know how much of it is review bombing, but like even if you didn't like the show, I don't see how you could honestly give this a 39.
Yeah.
And this is an average. I understand that not everybody feels that way. So if we're looking at just under 4 out of 10, like that is the average, I feel like the performances were too good. I feel like enough money had the Middle Earth looking good. I thought Bear McCreary's music was good enough to get more than like a 39. Like, and I'm focusing on the audience score, because we see that the critic score is much higher. We're like, what was that, 85?
85.
85. There we go.
Yes, it's a big difference.
It's huge.
What is it that made people react so strongly against this?
Jake,
do you think
Joe, you had your own theories about what was really rubbing people the wrong way.
Yeah, I'd like Jake to go. I feel like I spoke.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my feeling is it's one of those precious series that is so like entrenched in like nerd culture. Like, it's like it's basically Dungeons and Dragons ripped off Lord of the Rings and became massive. Like, it's kind of just one of those like pillars of the nerd community that is hard to touch. It's like I think it does hurt a lot of people if they don't see in it what they saw when they very first like got into the world.
I feel like there's a big pressure for people to either like love it or hate it. And it's hard for people to just have mediocre reviews. Like I never feel like I see enough, at least from the audience score, where scores are like 60 or 50 or you might see a 70 here or there, but I
But
always
this
feel like
is almost on like Batman and Robin bad.
yeah, and it's so weird.
Like did Sauron put nipples in his armor in this one?
Okay, now I'm interested. Season 2, baby.
He's signing up for season 2.
I don't need a nipply Sauron.
No.
Just because you put that into the world, there's going to be like fan art submitted to like the site, and there's going to be nipply Sauron. You put it into the universe.
Yeah, he put it in the ether, man. Yeah,
send it all to me. I'll curate it and send the good ones back.
Yeah, exactly.
You heard it here. Send all of your dirty Sauron pics to Jake.
Yeah, he's ready. He's ready.
And only the best ones will be on Nerdy Up North. You can join the group right now.
Yeah, there you go.
On Twitch, yep, I'll show up.
We're looking for the creme of the crop, the creme de la creme.
Yeah.
Billy, would you rate this a 39? Where's your score at? You stopped watching, so I imagine it's pretty low.
Yeah, I'd say like the tough thing is like I hear you guys keep on saying like by episode 6 it got really good, but then it's like yeah, but if you didn't make it to episode 6, then like if you were stopping at around 3 or 4, you're gonna give it a low score just because that beginning was rough. I mean, I could understand that because like the tough thing I do feel happens to a lot of TV shows nowadays is they do get canceled before they hit their prime. That is something I will say.
I don't think this is
because. I don't think this one probably, I hate to say it, but I think it probably will get canceled.
Nah.
Really?
I say that just because, like, here's the thing. Like, there's some great shows that have been on, surprisingly, like, a comedy thing. I was going to go with Married with Children. That show almost got canceled by its 3rd season because, like, nobody was watching that thing. Became, like a huge success by its 3rd year because that's when, like groups tried to shut it down and tried to do, like, the campaigns to get rid of it. And similar things happened to other shows. You know, like there were shows where they had a loyal fan base. It was a small following, but the writers didn't figure out what they were doing. There was tons of early mistakes that make the earlier episodes rough to watch, extremely rough. But occasionally, if they get a little bit of time and maybe a little bit of hope, they can occasionally pull it off and come back. I really have a lot of faith in the show because, as I said, like I hear you guys with love for the thing. And trust me, there's been shows I had no idea how the hell they lasted. Like to this day, they just launched a spinoff for Supernatural, and I'm like, how the hell did that show get 12 seasons?
Low budget and
CW not really knowing how to do math.
Yeah.
No, forget that. No, they had a very Supernatural because I myself am a Supernatural fan.
Amy
I watched
too.
I watched the good seasons, the terrible seasons. I supported it all. Supernatural had a very strong fan base.
Oh yeah, that's why I know. Like I'm gonna get hate just for the fact that I just trashed that in a review for this. Even if I got like fan base where I had like people like, yeah, you crapped on Rings of Power. People will say, but you shit on Supernatural. Death to you.
Yeah.
So let me ask Jake something because I feel like I'm not saying that you are the sole curator of memes, but I also look at memes as almost like a unit of measurement. And this is happening on Amazon Prime, the same show, the same streaming network that has The Boys. And The Boys was big part of pop culture. Every episode we had some new memes. Homelander, people dressing up like Homelander at conventions. Do you see the same level of, I guess, commitment or engagement, I should say, from the fan base of Lord of the Rings? Or is it really just a smaller group? Just like, that was nice.
I mean, I can only speak for like our sort of Facebook group, which is about like 6,000. But to be honest, I'm not seeing like any talk about Rings of Power. I'm not sure if it's just a show people are like scared to talk about for spoiler reasons, or if it is just something people are still. I mean, to be honest, how long is it? Like 12 hours worth of TV.
Yeah, it is.
We might be the first who've made it through.
We did
I
it.
didn't even
We
make
did
it through. I don't
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's not as memeable as the movies. And you're right, The Boys was like totally other end of the spectrum where there was like little clips everywhere, probably because it was so ridiculous. Like there was
Yeah.
a moment every episode.
I still see Lord of the Rings memes everywhere.
Yes, the classic ones, yeah.
It
So-
feels weird. I think while some look at the Marvel movies and the Marvel TV shows, and people in the industry will complain about them because now it seems like movie studios and television studios may be trying to make similar projects, trying to compete on the Marvel level because there's such a huge influence on the industry. I also feel like to a certain extent, memes have an influence on the industry, creating memes so that that becomes free publicity for people. You don't have to pay for advertising when you've got
brings in more
people
billions.
sharing their images for
Yeah.
free 99 on all of the social media sites. So it is something where I do feel like supernatural. You fucked me up, Billy. But Rings of Power has its fan base, but I'm not sure if it is as to compare to another show that's going head to head with it. House of the Dragon is a little
There's a
more
lot of
memeable.
memes.
A lot of
Yeah.
people talking about it.
Yeah.
A lot of people talking about those feet.
Yeah. That was wild.
Now I have not watched House. I have not watched House of
Dragon.
Yeah, I'm not the only one.
I've seen maybe an episode, maybe two. I know I've seen one, but it is definitely something where people are talking about it for because we're talking about horrible fathers. We're talking about seeing Doctor Who's naked body parts. There's a lot of things to talk about there. I'm not sure if it necessarily makes it the better program.
No, because it started out strong and then fizzled, whereas this one started out slow and built up.
And do you think it's the shock value, like how you were saying,
Yeah.
like how Lord of the Rings it takes itself a little bit more seriously. It has comedy, but it's not out there having like tons of like shock moments just to
Yeah,
get
nobody's
people
head's
talking.
getting bashed in.
So we
Gandalf's
saw
feet aren't out every episode.
What is with the internet and feet? Why?
The
All right,
OG.
so guys,
Only feet.
we talked about what worked for you. Apparently, feet. No,
No,
we
not
talked
for
about
me.
what worked for you
I don't like feet. That's gross. I work in feet. It's
we talked
weird.
about what doesn't work for you, and we talked about the reception that other people had. I think it's time we get into the free for all.
All right. I've got to get this off my chest, and I can't wait to hear what Jake's gonna say. But I think that the misdirection they had, and they spent so much time with those creepy, like blue and white sheeted folks running around, the witches, I guess you could say.
Oh, those were awesome! Like
Those are the highlight of the show, especially the Billy. You might want to leave because if you pick it back up, you want me to kick you out? That way you can.
Wow, just let Billy stay. I thought he gave us some good insight, and maybe he didn't finish the show, but now you can just tell him what happened.
All right, so they thought it was Sauron. They thought the stranger that fell from the sky was Sauron, and they were like, "Oh, my Lord Sauron!" And he goes, "I ain't Sauron." And they're like, "No, you are." And he knocked him out. And then the little people came to help him, and we lost Sadek, R.I.P. And then they're like, "Okay, Sauron, wake up. This is you. You're Sauron." And he goes, "No, I'm good." And then he whispers a lot of familiar things that Gandalf has said, and I think it's a misdirection because first they misdirected us and made us really think, maybe he's Sauron, because Sauron also, when he came back, came through the sky in the Silmarillion during the Second Age, and also Sauron had the same. He's a Maya, just like Gandalf, and Saruman. He's like the highest one of the set. So I think the misdirection is when those three witches said, hey, okay, he's not Sauron. Oh, crap. He's the other one.
Mhm.
He's the Istar. And I think that they ran into the other wizard, and this is the second wizard, and they're the blue wizards and not Gandalf. They're just using familiar verbiage. Yeah, oh, if you want to know where you got to go, you got to follow your nose. And, return back to the shadows. So I think they're just using that familiar verbiage to give us the thought that it's Gandalf, but it's not. It just wants us to be familiar with the wizards and how they speak and how they present themselves. So my theory is the stranger is one of the blue wizards.
No,
All
okay.
right.
I mean, I was thinking I don't know how much you guys noticed, but the stranger has he's got a different accent to Gandalf. So I was thinking when's he gonna lose his regional twang?
Yeah.
But
I didn't pick that up.
My sort of theory was maybe it's at this moment it's a mix of the wizards, maybe because the kind of the sort of you don't really know what they are, they're sort of angels, aren't they? The
Yeah.
wizard,
Mhm.
Sauron, effectively. So I was thinking maybe this is Gandalf and Saruman mixed together, and we're gonna get some kind of weird separation thing happen. Maybe it's everybody.
He's all the wizards, and he becomes the wizards.
Possibly.
Oh wow!
We're all the stranger.
Well, we know that the name Gandalf will not be used because of rights issues.
Right.
So even if it is Gandalf, we might be hearing a name like Oleron or something like that.
Or the Gray Wizard. They'll just call him the Gray Wizard. Yeah.
Farcoon. Any
So
of
this
his
show
other
has
names.
that Gotham issue where they couldn't use
Yep.
Joker.
Yep.
So there's a lot of names that he could go by. Blue Wizard, one of the Blue Wizards is another possibility. But there was a theory that the two dudes that were walking past the Horrorfoot in the beginning might be Blue Wizards themselves. Even though they haven't done anything magical and we never saw them again. We did see them talking, and I don't know, I had reason to believe we might see them again. So there's a chance that those two were the Blue Wizards.
Interesting. I'd have to go back and look because I don't
See
that. Yeah, I don't see that one.
Gotta do frame by frame.
No time on them.
Yeah, they didn't.
It was like, who are these humans walking past us? And then they actually focused in on the humans. They had a little conversation, but then we never saw them again.
Yeah.
So maybe we won't see them again.
Maybe you're not just
But I thought if they were
when they had the Ford Focus and the other one.
I thought if they were inconsequential, why spend even the amount of time that they did on them?
Well, I mean, it's like I said, the show likes to do a lot of misdirection. They
Those
had
two guys are why Billy doesn't watch anymore.
That's probably it.
I'm actually kind of curious about this Blue Wizard stuff because I'm a normie with this stuff. I watched the Peter Jackson movies, the Ralph Bakshi one, and the Hobbit movies. Plus, I listened to the Hobbit on audiobook when I was like a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
My knowledge, I don't know the Blue Wizards. I weren't in the Hobbit when I read it. I mean,
their names got changed. They were in the Silmarillion. They came at the Second Age, and they were supposed to disrupt Sauron's plans, and try to help him in the East because I think most of the stuff that we're in is in the West, or vice versa, East-West. I get it confused sometimes, and that's the whole point of the Blue Wizards, to kind of not make the groups that Sauron builds so powerful, so he has to disrupt some of the stuff. So, which is why I think it took Sauron 2 millennia to get power again. In reality,
it is an interesting theory. Another, I'm not sure if this so much is a theory, so much as a very real possibility. Now that Sauron has been revealed, is probably headed back to Mordor.
Yeah,
and
that's where he was going.
Yeah, that he got some fancy new clothes somehow in that last.
Yeah, he simply walked there.
He just-
You walked into Mordor?
walked to Mordor.
Yeah, he did.
one does not simply. Yes, Sauron did. He
I
walked
guess
right
so.
in that bitch. Yep.
I guess he doesn't need to breathe, so
No.
all the ash is fine.
Yeah.
The person who was leading the orc battle was a gentleman, and I use the term gentleman loosely, named Adar.
Ada.
And Adar says he killed Sauron. Obviously not the truth, but I imagine these two might have a confrontation, assuming there is a scene. Do you look forward, do you see these two meeting? Do you see them working together?
I think they're one and the same person. I think
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that.
Joe, Lord Dove, man of many theories.
Yeah, I got a lot of theories. The reason why I say that is because Adar, like I said in the Silmarillion, there was an elf that was fooling people into doing some of the wills that they wanted. And I think Adar is like a representation of that, but he's fooling the orcs into following him to then go into Mordor. And he was the cataclysm that opened up the chamber to bring about the explosion of Mount Doom, which I think since Sauron could put his soul into more than one thing, he put it in the ring, and he was in a huge armor. I think that between the two of them, spirit and his physical will and the physical body.
I did like some of the orc stuff because I don't know if you guys have played those Shadow of Mordor games.
I have.
Yeah, like some of that stuff where like the orcs like to chant people's names.
Yeah.
I was like,
oh, here comes the war chief.
Yeah. Like I did like how they set off the volcano because I didn't really see it coming because I was like, they're digging. I was like, they're probably digging tunnels because orcs sometimes use tunnels to get around sunny areas and stuff.
Yeah.
But I did not think that they were like gonna like bust a dam and like cause a chain reaction.
Yeah,
like
that was
part.
cool.
Anyone else? We're on this free for all. Billy,
It's
talk
weird
your
with
shit,
this
man.
Because like I'm gonna be like one of those people. I like the Peter Jackson ones. I did not like the Hobbit trilogy. I did not like that. So
Me neither.
I didn't expect to. So I went into this wanting to like it, hoping that it would be like the other materials and stuff like that. I actually was choosing between. I was like, I've never watched a Game of Thrones, so I'll skip House of Dragons, and I've seen all of this Peter Jackson stuff. I've seen all these other ones, so at least I'll know a little bit about this stuff, even though I'm a normie. I don't know like a lot of this stuff. The few things I do know, I know like Galadriel's mystic. I know like not going to have Gandalf because this predates Gandalf. This is going to be like the origin story of everything. We'll see like we won't see like hobbits or any of that stuff. We'd see like more obscure writing and maybe like a different vibe because when I read the Hobbit book, it was much different storyline than the Hobbit trilogy. It was like a treasure adventure story, and then it turned into like this war epic. I was like, okay, this is going to be like the rise of the Lord of the Rings, but not the world building. It's going to have. I expect it to be slow, but I just didn't expect it to be as slow. I'm going to see like where everything comes from. I'm going to hopefully know more about what's going on. I'm bored now. Please let me change the channel.
I'm sorry that was your experience. You deserve better, Billy. All right, guys. I'm looking at the time.
Yeah, we gotta wrap up.
And this conversation has.
And our man Jake's got to go to bed.
Yeah, man. Oh my goodness.
Gotta have second bed because I had a nap before.
He doesn't know about second breakfast.
I could have first breakfast right now.
Let's get into our final glance. So we've seen the show; it's wrapped up. Though Billy might debate me on this, I thought it was a pretty successful run this season. I fully expect a season 2, and we'll see what happens with season 3. Our opinions on certain revelations and theories that we've made. Joe, is there any parting words you would like to give our guests here today?
Yes. So
watching.
for those who haven't given this the true chance, like Billy, I think you need to just kind of get a cup of coffee, get through the 5th episode, and be wowed from 6 on. It's worth it. It's fun. It's magical. and there's some twists and turns that you've already lost by if you're watching this. So
Billy, any final words you'd like to give the people watching right
Billy's
now?
like, I'm
Assuming
not
they made
watching
it.
this far. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. But like the thing is, like with a lot of TV shows, occasionally there are times where I want the spoiler, and that's not like a deal breaker for me on that sort of thing. So I don't feel bad about giving spoilers. Spoilers have actually sometimes brought me back into shows. That's something I will actually say. Like if a spoiler says something is like epic going to happen, or something that like really captures like the imagination, I'll be like, I have to see the execution. That the description sounds great. I'll admit, like right now, I'm still on the fence. I'm still like, yeah, the guy's Sauron.
Meh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now you can analyze all his behavior and be like,
Yeah.
I'm on to you.
Yeah.
Jake, our very special guest.
Yeah, you
Any
got a final word.
words for us and the people watching?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. These have all been great. But I thought it was very brave of them to show Sauron, who, as Lord Dove was saying, is this like mythical angel being. Kind of a fuckboy though, when he was talking to Galadriel. When he was like, I'm the only one who can see your greatness, and you would make me good. Like, just like love bombing her like immediately,
Yeah.
and she's like, no, I thought that was pretty funny. Evil to the core.
Yeah.
I guess before I head off, I will go and say that I might be the complete opposite of Billy. I did not walk in with an open mind. I was not looking forward to watching the show, and I walked away feeling charmed by all of the characters. This is a lot lighter. Not that I was expecting it to be heavy, but I knew there were heavy themes, and I wasn't sure I wanted to commit to another. I don't know. Maybe I was just turned off by the previous Game of Thrones series. But I wasn't looking forward to another fantasy setting to jump into.
Wait, so you weren't looking for defeat?
I was already defeated before the feat ever arrived. But I really walked away charmed from the series, and I really enjoyed being able to have a conversation with you all about, and so many different perspectives coming into this conversation. I encourage anyone who hasn't watched, assuming you made it to an hour, to go and check out Rings of Power if you haven't already, even though we spoiled everything like we told you we were going to do. But yeah, I don't know. I walked away happy. I like the music, and I like you all for joining me. Like this is great. If there's anything we didn't talk about that you feel like we should have, anything you want to say, leave them all there in the comments. Share with your buddies. Like, there's buttons there. You know what the buttons do. Hit the buttons. And hit the button.
Press buttons.
Yeah. Look, hit the like button. Hit. If you're feeling really daring, you can hit the alarm button and get alerts every time we have something new. But that's only for the daring. That is only for the daring. For Billy, for Jake, for Lord Dove, I am Brandon Liu. This is the Spectrum Sanctorum. Thank you all. We will see you in the future.